Anthony is a fire captain for the city of Oceanside in California. His experience includes fire engineer, firefighting paramedic, SWAT medic, team leader, heli-tac firefighter, and helicopter rescue medic. He serves as a lead fire academy cadre member for multiple fire academies. Anthony has taught EMTs and paramedics for over 20 years and prides himself on the development of entry-level firefighters to the career development of aspiring engineers and captain. Anthony is a recent recipient of the American Legion's Medal of Valor for saving the lives of 2 little girls that were swept out to the ocean by large waves while on vacation with his family in Northern California. I don't know what you guys do on your vacation, but man, that's pretty cool. After almost losing his life in a freak accident while fighting a structured fire, Anthony has become a vocal advocate for firefighter safety and working conditions and is uncompromising in his pursuit to get his firefighters home safe to their families. In his free time, Anthony is a loyal and dedicated family man and always appreciates the opportunity to give back to his neighbors and the community. Anthony loves sports and the outdoors, who doesn't? Likes to stay active. He truly is blessed to have, and he feels blessed to have the opportunity to speak with you men here for an organization of people like Leading with Power, and he strives to bring value-added components of the talk today to an already incredible group of men. So give a round of applause here for Anthony as he comes up to talk to you today.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, or almost afternoon here. I'm going to try and switch from this mic to this one right here. So let's see if this works. All right. Can you guys hear me? Can everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that bio, man, I was almost like, who's this guy talking about? So, that is me, and I'm excited to be here to share that with you. And when I look around this room, I see some very strong men. I see some leaders. Just by virtue of the fact that you're here, it makes me excited to want to share what I've learned in my journey along the way. I thought, maybe we should have a little bit of fun, though, because I've never been to Wisconsin, and so far I love it. My son here, Aiden, we're loving it. We're enjoying the contrast of where we came from. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what's going on at home right now. Let's see here. So this is what you might see, and this is us heading into something. And this is why we build people the way that we build them, right? Because at a moment, you may have to rise to the occasion. Now, this is something that I've been trained to do, but yeah, thanks. We'll go full screen. Thank you. Full screen on that. Ready? Yep. And so this is us, and you're going to see a nice, what we call a header in the fire service. Nice big black one. Communities are burning. And as we're going in, people are going the other way. But this is what you'll see in California right now. Not a lot of snow. So as we go into this, we're going into this with confidence because we've been trained well. We've taken each other to task. We've sharpened each other. The guy who's driving, I've got all the confidence in the world he's going to get us there safe. And when we need water, he's going to get it to us. The guys in the back seat, they're going to follow through on their task because my job as a fire captain is safety. I need to get these guys home. But we know what we signed up for. We signed up to first save lives, try and save their property, and then the environment. Now, I'm going to switch over to another one here real quickly, and I will try and catch something because there might be a little bit of a language thing, but let's try and miss that. But this is what, so when we get there, this is what it looks like. This is fire bumping up against the houses. It's intense and it's hot. And we're going to fall back on the way that we were trained. The same way you were trained to do whatever it is you do in life. Okay, so right there, that's me asking for help. And this is my chief telling me I'm going to get some. The video that you don't see because I don't have time to play it is the one where he tells me there's no help available, you're on your own. Right? So that's kind of the way the thing goes. You know, that's what we train for. That's how we become strong. Just want to give you a little contrast of what we're looking at. It's beautiful here. We love the snow, and the weather's a welcome change. But what brings me here, I'm going to have to give you a little bit of background on what led to the person that you see in front of you. I'm going to tell you that I'm not special, and we're going to talk about it in the PowerPoint. Nobody here is special. We're special to a couple of people in life. You're special to your moms, you're special to your dads, you're special to your brothers and sisters, and that is it. We've got a finite amount of time to make a difference in the community. We've got a finite amount of time to prepare our future generations to do something with their lives and to be strong. And we have to build them with confidence, right? So with that, I'm 45 years old. I was born in Los Angeles, California. I was born with heroin withdrawals. I never knew my father. And my mother, as much as she may have had a good heart, she just wasn't a good person, so to speak, at the time. Life was challenging. Life was rough. I saw a lot of things that you never want your children or any children to see. I was taken away a number of times, and then finally the last time I got removed from my home was July 23rd, 1986. A joint raid between 3 police agencies, 2 local and the county sheriff. And at the time, it was one of the first raids of its type. Now you see it in movies, and you see it, on TV all the time, because it's kind of the model that they follow. I'll never forget the day. I remember I was 1 year younger than my son. I was playing in the backyard, and it wasn't out of the ordinary for chaos to suddenly go down in our house, just depending on who was there and who was visiting at the time and what their business was there. So I remember hearing my mom yell down from the basements where she had a room set up, and I thought, oh, somebody's in a fight. And so I went running through the back door, and when I got in there, I was shocked. See, when I grew up watching the TV show SWAT and watched things, they had these blue uniforms on and everything looked really good. Well, when I came running through the door, everybody was in camouflage, and I thought the army was in my house, and I couldn't figure out what they were doing in my house. And then I hear gunshots, and it was very clear what that was. There's no mistaking what that is. And so I'm running, and I come through the kitchen into the living room, and there's a sawed-off shotgun right in my face. And the guy's saying, "Freeze, down." I'm a child. I'm freaking out. Next thing you know, I'm face down in a floor heater with him on top of me because there's more gunshots. And he's doing his job. Because what he did that day, he was coming to protect the community. He was coming to root out the bad guy, and when the gunshots went off, his instinct said, I got to protect this kid, because they didn't all know what had happened. I'll give you the quick story on that, and that is our dog went after one of the police officers, and that's where the gunshots occurred. So he missed, the dog lived, got the dog's attention, he sat, and the rest is kind of history. But that was the last time I lived with my mom. I was a ward of the court from 11 to 18. So the charity that you guys are supporting today, it's actually very apropos that I'm here, because I was that orphan that was too old to adopt. Not a lot of people go to the agency and say, hey, I want an 11-year-old, I want a 15-year-old, I want a 16-year-old. So I bounced around from foster home to foster home after that. So at that age, I had seen enough. And it was starting to dawn on me that our family name was horrible. We had no good family name. Chapman didn't mean anything. If the police said Chapman, it was a bad thing. Excuse me while I take a little drink here. And so, my mom did do something right. She instilled a belief in me that no one can beat out of me, nobody could break. Even when the police came through, they were looking for drugs, so they broke all of our trophies. They broke everything. And that's not their fault, that's our parents' fault, because that's where they would hide stuff like that, right? So, but she instilled something that nobody could take, and that was this belief in God. And at the loneliest times, and through some of the most horrific things that I endured myself, or I watched my siblings endure, or I saw happen, there was this thing that I could fall back on that was greater than me. And at some pretty dark, lonely times, I felt like I wasn't alone. Now, it feels like the worst day of my life has happened. God, why did you do this to me? My mom said that you were going to protect me. Jesus was going to protect me. What is this? Well, we all know hindsight's 20/20, and as it turns out, that was the greatest day of my life, wasn't it? And so I made a deal with God that day, though, or in that time. And what I said was, God, if you can get me and my family out of this, if you can get us out of this, I promise I will dedicate my life to something good, and I'll serve the community. I almost didn't make it through that. And that's what I did. But there was no roadmap. I didn't have a father in the house. I had, some kind of male, figures coming in and out of my life. But each one of them had an important lesson to teach. And they challenged me at every turn. But I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to make something of this name? And that's what you men are doing, right? Because right now, my son, he sits in the front row. His last name's Chapman, but it's not his. That's the name I've earned. And he's going to earn that name. And then, God willing, he's going to pass that on to his sons, daughters, and the whole bit, right? Because when our kids are out there on the field, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever be the sport, don't we want that name to mean something? This community, you guys, you know each other. Do you want to look out there and go, oh, there's that Chapman kid, man. He's such a good kid, but his dad's a turd. Right? No, we don't want that. We want good opportunities for our kids, good opportunities for our communities. But it has to be systematic and methodical. It has to be purposeful. We have to move towards building men with conviction, right? So I thought I wanted to be a police officer. Well, as it turns out, I didn't want to be a police officer. I did want to do something in public service. I've got the utmost respect for the police. I worked on the SWAT team for 7 years with the Oceanside Police Department, and it is a beautiful city that has a particularly nasty dark side to it, unfortunately. So I got lots of repetitions there. So I did realize that side of my dream, and the reason that I became a SWAT paramedic was because July 23rd, 1986, I remember the people that were in my house, if they could have hurt or killed a police officer, they would have. And thank God it didn't happen. But I wanted to be there for the people that did not bring that on themselves. And I thought, okay, here's my commitment to God. I'm going to protect people who aren't always in the position to protect themselves. I feel like we've got a moral and an ethical responsibility to do that as men in our communities. The greatest heroes aren't the ones that put on these uniforms, and you know that. The greatest heroes are the people who don't put on the uniforms, but still make the conscious decision to run into a dangerous situation. Whether you see a car overturned or your neighbor's house on fire or whatever be the case, we see real heroes every day. We see people, women that make great sacrifices for their children that don't have a father in the home. We see men who go on to do incredible things for their families just so they can have a greater and a better opportunity. So they'll never feel the childhood that some of you had. And those people are heroes to me. So along this journey, it took me to the fire service. And I didn't want to merely exist. I wanted to excel at it. I wanted to do something that my family could be proud of, and I wanted to meet God on this commitment that I had made to Him. And let me tell you, the road was not easy. The road was challenging, and it's not supposed to be easy. I'm not going to lay out a roadmap, and I don't think any of you, if you were speaking up here and you really wanted us to learn something, you wouldn't lay out an easy roadmap. You would just lay it out. See, there's no shortcuts. That's what I figured out early on. If there were truly shortcuts, that'd be known as the way, wouldn't it? Right? So what there is, though, is there's hard work, there's direction. We can lay down the paths for each other, but you got to walk through them. You got to be willing to do it, because there is nothing that anyone has ever given you that you actually truly care about like you do something that you earned. I could give you anything, and you may have it for a day, you may have it for a week, maybe you have it for a couple of years, and you'll be like, oh yeah, Tony Chapman gave me this thing. You know, it was pretty cool. I'm not sure what happened to it though. But that thing you worked so hard for, blood, sweat, tears, you have it forever. And the day you lost it, you know it, and you miss it, because it's a grind, and it's supposed to be that way. See, life, it has its ups and downs, it has its goods and bads. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, especially where we come from in California, they want to sprinkle everything in pixie dust and make you believe that there's no evil in this world. Well, absolutely there is. There is. And you have to be able to take it head on. You have to invite the opportunity to show with some conviction, with some purpose, with contempt for failure, that you can drive right through it. These are just learning opportunities. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, is I think that we got to approach this thing purposeful. And we got to, this group, let me digress a little bit. This group is incredible to me just when I heard how it came together, why it comes together, and who comes out. We're dying for this. See, I teach at a fire academy, and we'll get 40, 45 for the first week, and then we bounce people, and we'll whittle our way down to whatever's left. But of those 40 people, let's say, we'll have anybody from 19, 20 years old to 40 plus years old. We'll have people that mom just cut the ends off their sandwich last night and sent them to the fire academy and said, okay, put on your firefighter costume, have fun, Or we have people who have done 2 or 3 tours, in Iraq and Afghanistan, Navy SEALs, to every military occupation. I'm sure we have some veterans in the room, and I appreciate and really love you for your service to this country. Well, these people, they're in there, and we have to figure out a way to not lose their interest and keep those military men and those men with all these great experiences pushing and learning and developing into the fire service, while trying to catch up these 19-year-old young men who've got the greatest of intentions, right? And they want to build themselves into this service. And so it's a systematic breakdown of the individual. So the fire service is a paramilitary organization for a reason, because after every conflict in this nation, we learned that the military's efficiency is a great model for the rest of us to follow. So we use that chain of command, we use the rank structure, and we use a lot of those same disciplinary techniques. What does it all come down to? So we could put a badge on, or we can put some brass on our collar, and we can look at each other and go, I'm the best? No. It's for safety. It's to keep our community strong. It's to keep us accountable. See, we have to embrace the fact that whether we're in a paramilitary organization, a military organization, or we're in this community, that we should live to serve those coming up behind us. And in the interest of goodwill and the community advancing, it's going to take a deliberate effort to build these men. So let me dive into this a little bit, and we'll talk through it. I already know that there's going to be some people that you could have wrote this. Maybe you don't agree with some of it. And hey, that's fair, because at the end of the day, as men, we have to be able to agree to disagree. Believe me, I work in a busy and aggressive fire department with a bunch of alpha males that like to beat their chest. We don't all like each other. That's just life. But we do have to die for each other once in a while. That is the discipline, right? And whether I like the guy or not, their families are always welcome. They're always welcome to the firehouse. Anytime, the holidays, the whole thing. And I treat their sons and daughters as if they were my own. And I expect them to do the same. Sorry, one more drink here, sorry. All right, let's dive into this. So we got to start from the beginning, right? We have to identify and we have to recognize where are we at. How are we doing? You know, we can't look at our youth and go, oh, spoiled brat, or oh, this guy, he's just maladjusted, malaligned. You know, if you're gonna make a difference in building a young man into a man, we gotta identify and recognize what is it that they're good at. There's some things that they're good at, because along the way, we don't want them to lose those things. We want them to build that, and we need to build some character. It does us no good at the end of the day if we just make a bunch of minions. We're not building clones, right? We're building independent thinking men that know how to work as a team. The first thing I tell these firefighters is we're not building robots. We're building thinking firefighters. So I need you to be able to think. I need you to be able to follow orders, of course, but there's going to be a lot of gray area. And how do we weather that storm? How do we get through the gray area if we haven't equipped them with some of the the information that will help them make gray area decisions? They got to have a flow chart, got to have a systematic way of following this. So first of all, we're all products of our environment. I was a product of mine, absolutely, positively, unequivocally, without a doubt. And I wanted to break that, right? In the Bible, it talks about breaking these chains of events, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. Who have our greatest influences been? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about do you believe in something greater than yourself? I think it's very important, right? Have you developed an ethos, a moral code that you live by? If you haven't developed a moral code, and if somebody was to ask you about it and you can't really put it into words, it doesn't make you a bad person, but it sure makes it more challenging to impress the importance of these things on somebody else, right? What are your priorities? Are they defined, right? So we're going to talk about that. Humility. Ask yourself, who owes you a great life? Start asking yourself right now. What would your children say, right? What would your daughters, your sons, what would they say right now, right? And if I asked my own son here, he'd probably give me some pretty funny comments on that. But I absorb that. I don't make him feel bad about that. I turn around and I say, okay, here's actually what you're owed. And it is a sobering conversation, you know? And as we become men in this country, as much as society, so to speak, and especially where I live, they're trying to nerf everything up. It's a nerfed up world, like Joe Rogan, if you guys are familiar with him, what he would say, right? But that's just not the case. Once you're 18 in this country, there's nothing to stop you from falling through the cracks. And unfortunately, here it's just too cold. But where I live, the homeless population is incredible, and it is growing. And I'll tell you, what really blows me away is I talk with these young kids. They'll be in their early 20s, and they're making the conscious decision to do it. They're like, well, we don't have to work. And they'd start rattling off all the places in the city of Oceanside that will give them a place to shower, free food, clothes, the whole bit. We can't build our communities and strengthen them based on that. We cannot. That is not sustaining, right? Okay, so we are all products of our environment. I want to read this to you. Here's a universal truth, right? And I think that if we can wrap our minds around some universal truths in life, it sets the tone for building. What we allow, we are what we allow. We will become what we accept, and most importantly, our thoughts become our reality, right? So how we interact with other men, especially in front of young men or women or young ladies, we're teaching people how we want to be treated. We're teaching people what we will accept, right? sometimes, when we show up on calls, and I refer to the fire service a lot because obviously that's a place where I've got a great amount of experience. This talk isn't for firefighters. This talk is for men. So let me say that. But when people call us, people think, oh man, you guys, you're the heroes. Everybody's happy to see you and everything like that. No, that's not true at all. When we're driving to calls, sometimes people will not pull over to the right and stop like they're supposed to. They'll flip us off. They'll cuss us out. And in my town, unfortunately, it's not long between incidents where we're actually in a physical fist fight with some people because we've got a lot of sick people there, right? And so, but you still, when you come across these different people and personalities, we still have to show each other how it is that we want to be treated. We want to be treated with respect, and we're not going to accept when people don't treat us with respect. Because what that creates is it makes you bitter, and you start to withdraw. And when you do that, now your family starts to think, well, that's how we act. We don't say anything in the moment because somebody really upset us, and then you go home and you stew about it. And then you finally lose it, and they think, well, that's what we do, And so behaviors are learned. So first and foremost, we should treat each other with respect, with the utmost respect. And sometimes when I show up at the door or on an accident or whatever it is, someone calls because somebody's crazy, they start cussing us out. Blah, 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 blah. I say, okay, you got my attention. You have my attention. You're upset. What can I do for you? Why are you so mad? Because you're going to find, and this happened to me, I went through a real anger phase as a teenager. There were some people that I had a bit of a vendetta with, people that had done horrific things to my mother and to me and my siblings, and I thought, oh, here we go, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit the weights, I'm going to box, I'm going to train every martial art that I can, and someday I will get this guy. And I really did think that. And I went at it with anger and aggression. And I was astonished when my own mother, who I was still in communication with, told me that someday you'll have to forgive this man for what he's done to us and what he's done to you. And I'm like, are you crazy? That's some of the worst advice I've ever heard. Are you crazy? No, I want to hold him down the way he held us down. I want to knock him unconscious the way he knocked you unconscious. I want to do these things and let him know you're no longer in charge. We won. We got you. No, she was so right. To carry that anger, that angst, that doesn't build a man, that destroys a man. And when we carry that, all it does is it creates a cancer in us. I feel sorry for that man. That man's spending the rest of his life in prison. He made his own bed. I can pray for him today, and I hope that he finds comfort in God and Jesus, because God's got a plan, right? It doesn't save him from man's justice, but if I can just have some goodwill and believe that there's a greater plan, and these people, they can't affect us and hurt us that way, then we can be all right. And that's what you'll find when you go to build these men. They've been a part of their environment, and either they haven't been challenged or they've seen more than perhaps you're ever going to see. And you got to push through the barriers. They want you to be engaged. They want your direction. They want your experience. And until they have their own, they got to borrow your experiences. And there's a lot of experience in this room. So these are our influences. Could have been our parents, grandparents, could have been siblings, could have been a mentor, somebody just from down the street that these kids had, kind of showing them the ropes, so to speak. And unfortunately, sometimes just, even with the best of intentions, people can lead people down bad roads that aren't good ideas. And so we should find a way to address those things and just tell people, hey, here's a tactful way to say, the way you're going about this, it's just wrong. Now, that's not to say that your intentions weren't good, and that's not to say that some of what you did here can't be salvaged and used to make you successful. It's just to say that, let me share with you my experiences and where this leads. And you have to be humble in that. At the bottom, I talk about community and society. So when you have orphans or people that are wards of the court, adopted, sometimes they're just kind of left to whatever their society thinks. I went from 11 years old from a pretty ugly town to a beautiful town in San Diego called Encinitas. And when I got there, I was astonished to hear a teacher once say, we can't use the word constructive criticism anymore. Because in that word is criticism. And criticism is bad. You're high as a kite. You're crazy. Because without criticism, we can't grow, right? Our growth is on the other side of criticism. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go and punch someone in the mouth and make their nose and their eyes water to criticize them. No. Make it make sense, right? But we need that criticism so we can grow. And I'll tell you, there's no secret here. Your greatest growth is on the other side of your fears. So take a chance. Do you believe in something greater than yourself? This is really important here. Not everybody in this room perhaps believes like I believe. Maybe not everybody believes in God. And maybe you believe in the universe, or maybe, it's okay. We don't have to agree here. I would love for you to hear the same calling that I've heard, but you should be able to believe in something greater than yourself. I believe fundamentally it's sound for people, for humans. There's many religions, and I respect all of them. I may not believe in all of them, but I believe in the fact that somebody dedicates their self with faith. And what is faith? Faith is believing in something with no real proof of it, right? And we're going to have faith in each other in order for this to work. This table's going to have faith that table way over there is got the same intentions. That if we all handed out assignments today, that everybody at their tables is going to take on their assignment with the best of intentions and striving for the best result. That's having faith. And so when we practice faith, it gives us something greater than ourselves to believe in. It also takes some of the pressure off, because in our faith, right, or in my faith, you already understand we're fallible. You already understand that we're not perfect. We're striving for an idea, right? Just like in this country, we talk about democracy, and we got people spitting democracy all over the place where I live, but what they don't understand is actually this is a republic, and it's a proud republic, right? It's the idea that we're trying to live up to. It's the idea, So that's why I think faith is important. Have you developed an ethos, a moral code that you live by? This is really important. This is important because there's all these values. We could sit here and we can go through every table and every man in here and say, well, what's your favorite value? What's your favorite value? Well, I think it's integrity. Well, what's integrity? Doing the right thing when no one else is looking. Oh, okay, yeah, that's a great answer. That's a great answer, right? But we're not all going to agree on what we think the best values are, because there's so many. And in order for us to enact those virtues, those values, we have to pare them down. We have to come up with the ones that we hold true and sacred to us, to our families, to our communities, and that becomes your core values, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about core values more. But the idea is that if we can instill these values, and I can instill them in my son, you can instill them in your children, then we can have a virtual flow chart. In the moment, I already know if I'm taking care of business the right way or if I'm not, right? There's an acronym that I developed more for our fire department, and I use it in the fire service, and it's very, very easily something you guys can use, and we're going to talk about it. But I already know in the moment, and so does my crew and anybody that I'm teaching. They know if they've screwed up, because all they have to look back and go, okay, yep, I didn't act with integrity on that. I wasn't enthusiastic. I didn't have dedication. I didn't carry myself with pride, right? I wasn't respectful. Then they already know why you're having the conversation with them, right? There's a lot of gray areas here and a lot of information. If we don't give something that these young men can build off of, then how do you know where the boundaries are at? If I tell you where the boundaries are at, then we're going to go score. But if we don't know where the boundaries are at, we're going to be running plays sideways, backwards, here and there, and just hoping that we're getting towards the goal, right? So if we define them, we'll get there more efficiently and stronger. So we talked about what are your priorities, we talked about your core values. Now your priorities is essential that we talk about what our priorities are. And here's mine. And you've probably seen it. This isn't earth moving. It's really this simple: faith, family, friends, then the fire department. Right? In that order. That's how it works. So I've got my relationship with God. It has to be that way. And then in that next circle is going to be me and my wife. And then in that next circle is going to be me and my sons. I've got my son Aiden here, and then I also have twin boys, Landon and Gavin. And then my family outside of that, then my friends, then comes the fire department. Okay, well, does that mean that the fire department always takes a back seat every time to... No, not at all. That's where I educate my family, and I let them know, hey, my career, it helps support our livelihood. It helps support the community in its way. And so sometimes it's going to be a priority over what we're doing day to day, right? But overall, in the grand scheme of things, those are your priorities. And if somebody or something asks you to do something that falls outside of those priorities, and it falls outside of your core values, then you already know it wasn't right for you. And you're already going to have to kind of, okay, boy, I kind of blew it here. What do I do? You know? Well, you got to own it. That's what you do. You own it and you fix it. And then we move on. Oh, something else I want to talk about on that last slide there. Sacrifice versus compromise. When should they occur? We want your sacrifices. Those should be few. Sacrifices, and this is my opinion. I believe sacrifices should occur when they have to. When they have to. Don't go and die on the sword at every opportunity, right? It just you can't make progress that way, and you're overexposing yourself, and you're not really protecting yourself, your families, and your value system that way. But compromise should be plenty. Compromise should be at every turn. Why not? Why not compromise? We'd get more out of it. So consider that, sacrifice versus compromise. I love this one right here, especially for my young men in the fire service, because like I said, literally, sometimes they show up with a little sack lunch and they got their little firefighter costume on, and in no time flat, they're going to be picking up chicks and all this stuff that you see in the firefighter shows that are so far off of what reality is, but it's fun to watch, right? And so that's what they think, but down in there is somebody that really does want to do well. And that's why we have what's called probation in the fire service. You go through a year of probation, and that's our testing time. That's our time where we are going to push you to the limit, and we're going to do it on purpose. And when you fail, we're going to watch you fail, and then we're going to let you, when you're sinking, we're going to let you sink for a little bit. And if we've built you correctly, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn, hey, I'm all right. I do have another gear. I do have a little more left in the tank. I am going to push through. And by the time that year goes, we've weeded out the people who shouldn't be there in most cases. You always slip a couple through. But we've also taught these guys something. So when you're headed into that fire, like what I showed you guys there, and that's just a glimpse, because the ones that are really nasty, we don't have time to video, right? And structure fires, you can't even see half the time. Half the time it is black. You can put your hand in front of your face and you can't see until you're right on the fire. And it gets hot, and it gets hot. And right when you thought that you couldn't take any more, it gets hotter. And then here's the glow. I'm getting closer. All right, push on, push on. You're listening to the noises. It is a nasty, nasty environment. Sounds like a freight train is coming through. But who's depending on us? Our team. We're going to talk a little bit more about team. And so this is why we build people for these things, to rise to the occasion. And if you think that life owes you anything, nobody owes you anything. When you're 18 years old, man, life doesn't owe you anything but death and taxes, right? Because that's what it's going to bring. You owe yourself. You owe it to your families and to yourselves to go and make something of yourself. No one's going to hand it to you. No one's going to give you a great name. No one's going to build you. So it's not how you start. It's about preparing for who you'll become. This is the legacy that you're going to build. Because at a moment in time, you may find yourself in a situation where this is what you were meant to do. The road was hard because the task that God had for you was harder. And he needed to put you through your experiences in life so that you would actually reach those things. And when the moment came, you were ready because you had seen so much. You had experienced so much. So we're going to take a deliberate approach. We're going to be systematic and methodical in our training. We're going to act with purpose and conviction. We're going to use a team concept. We're going to set long and short-term goals. We're going to be open to feedback and criticism. We talked about criticism. And we're going to own our successes and our failures because there are things that you men are exceptional at. Absolutely. So it's okay for us to own that. And then there are things that we probably could be better at. And we're going to own those too. So it's no threat to our position, our authority, or anything if we say, yeah, I'm not very good at that. We're going to be systematic and methodical because it keeps you on task. You'll know when you're skipping steps. So we use things, and we're going to talk a little more about this, called mnemonics and acronyms, right? Maybe some of your businesses do as well. And we use those so at 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after an incredibly busy day, or after a day that was pretty chill and maybe we didn't do much, we can fall right back into line with the way that we approach doing business. And so if we miss a step, then we'll know about it. And when our boss comes to tell us that we missed a step, we're already ready with the fix. It's also going to show you, your holes in your game. When we talk about the ethos, you can also talk about your logos, and that's your logical thinking. What I want to really share with you guys is that if we build each other a certain way, and my greatest influences were my coaches, and a lot of you are coaches in this room. My greatest influences were some of my neighbors. You're all neighbors, right? And they all build you towards something until you can find the person that's got to lead you to the next level. Everybody's here for a reason, a season, and a lifetime, right? So today I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose. I'm going to be working with a company tomorrow that is advertising a fire helmet. On May 20th, 2014, I was on my way to a structure fire. I had my guys acting in my positions, and I was playing the firefighter, and I was sitting in the back seat for the first time in years thinking, oh, this is great. I might actually get my hands on a hose line. I haven't actually got to fight fire in a long time. Normally I got to run them. And that's the last thing I remember. So the next thing I remember is my son, 5 years old, rubbing my back, and I'm sitting on the stairs, and he said, Dad, when you get better, I'll take you to Disneyland. It took me a long time to be able to say that without breaking down. So what had happened was a tool came through the roof, hit me in the head. So I ended up with a brain injury, a broken neck, broken back, separated shoulder, and I was bedridden for a long time. I have no memories for 6 months to a year right in there, before I start to remember things. And then my memories become very patchy from there, and then they improve. I lost the fine motor movement on my right side because it was a left brain injury, so I had to learn how to walk and use my right side again. And then because of the broken neck, it compressed my left side, so everything completely shrunk, and I had to redevelop that. I've had a number of surgeries, and I could tell you that I'm still here today, not because I didn't go through some hard times, not because I didn't want to end it all at one point, because I couldn't stand the pain anymore. I did not want to be in the same pain. But because I had been developed a certain way, and because I knew that there was a plan, something greater, I kept pushing through. I kept pushing through. And we have this perception, right? Perception is false. It just makes you believe that you are where you are. And sometimes we're going to get in these tough spots, but we have to gain perspective. Right? There's a difference between perception. Perception told me that I was dead. Perception told the doctors and the lawyers and everybody that had to be involved in my case, it's still going on today, that he's never going to talk the same, he's never going to walk the same, he'll never go back to the fire service again. And there were all these times where I did not want to believe that, but man, I started to kind of slide back in there. But when I looked at what the guys had done for me and what the team concept had done for me, I started to grow again, right? Because what is team? Together, everyone achieves more, right? And the team is ahead of even the cause, right? Because we may not always win at the cause, but what we should do is we should be willing to sacrifice ourselves for the team. Because my greatest concern isn't that I'm not going to be able to save somebody's house. I would like to. That's what I trained to do. My greatest concern is not being able to be there for one of my brothers when the worst is happening, right? So the cause becomes secondary, even tertiary to what's actually happening. And that's how we build ourselves to grow. On a day on vacation 2 years ago, he was there on the beach. The water was about 50 degrees. And it is wicked up in Northern California. The waves are big. And I told my family where I grew up surfing and everything, and I just said, this is a no-go. We're not going anywhere near the water. That's volatile and wicked. And long story short, I heard screaming. I couldn't see because there's a little bit of berm right in front of where we were sitting in the shoreline. But I knew, automatically I knew exactly what had happened, because the waves had already come out and washed a couple people off their feet. That day, I'm going to tell you right now, I was feeling sorry for myself. I wasn't where I was at physically today. I was still trying to develop my sight. I was recovering from my a disc replacement in my neck, and I was feeling sorry for myself. I didn't want to go to the beach that day. I didn't want to go to that beach. My wife's like, we're going to that beach. You know how that works. Okay, I guess we're going to that beach. And I was like, well, let's go north. And she's like, nope, let's go south. So, of course, we went to that beach. We went south. And so that was it. And I was feeling sorry for myself, to be honest with you guys. I wish I could tell you a different story. But the moment I heard the screaming, I knew what had happened. And I looked, and my son and my other two sons were safe. And I knew that, boy, somebody's in trouble and they're going to need help. What I didn't realize is I was going to be the only person going. I'd be lying to you if I didn't have a little bit of disappointment in some of the men that were up there that day. It was scary. It's cold. It's wicked up there. It's unforgiving. The beach is called Monastery Beach. And if you looked it up on the internet, they call it Mortuary Beach, because 18 people have drowned there in the last 10 years. And most of them rescuers, right? Or would-be rescuers. So as soon as I got up over the berm, my wife said she had never seen me running so fast. And what it was I was so sure what it was I had to do. There was two girls getting sucked into the waves. They were getting sucked out, and they had already gone up one and got slammed. And I knew that they couldn't go through that too many more times. They were like 8 and 11 years old. And it was go time. I believed that more people would be coming with me, but as it turns out, it just wasn't what it was going to be. It was going to be myself, these girls, and God's hand. Because you don't train to grab two people at the same time, right? And so when I got to him, I was like, Okay, stay calm, stay calm. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. They were sucking in water. One was going under already. She was choking. And you know who I was talking to? I was talking to myself. I was like, stay calm. All right, just relax. That water was freezing. I didn't feel it. I had been feeling sorry for myself because of my perception, right? But in the moment, I didn't feel any of that. My greatest concern was, today, these girls are going home, right? And I was not about to fail like that and have my family watch me not make it out. And that's, my wife will tell you, that was the most horrific thing for her, was thinking that I wasn't coming out. She had already endured me, bedridden once, So we build each other, and we build each other. And what is it that all this training does? So in the moment, you'll rise to the occasion, and you'll become what you were supposed to be. I grabbed these girls. I had one in each arm. How I was still able to kick, I have no idea, but I was telling them, kick your feet hard, kick your feet hard. What I didn't tell them is I was going to hold their heads underwater when the next wave came, and I wasn't going to let them go, because once you lose them, that's it, right? You're not going to find them under the water like that. But I knew if I held them forward, and if the wave hit us right and far enough, it would keep pushing us forward. So I kicked and kicked and kicked. Think what you want. But I could tell you what happened, and that was Jesus was in that next wave. Hit from behind us. It felt like we had almost gotten launched in the air, but we didn't come out of the water. It's really foamy, so it's not very dense. You sink right into it. But we were under, and I could tell that they were freaking out because they can't, they want to breathe. They want to be above the water. But I just told them, just keep kicking. No matter what happens, keep kicking. And we got launched, catapulted forward enough to where the next wave pushed us in more. Kept kicking. I brought them up. They got some air. Next wave pushed us in again. Wasn't supposed to. Waves are dragging people out. 18 deaths in the last 10 years because waves drag people out and they can't get back in. That's God. That was God's plan. Those girls were coming out that day, and I was just the instrument. I was just the tool. And so I finally was able to get a foothold with these girls, and I was thinking, okay, I hope, here comes her parents trying to help. So you see, they tried, but when I went running into the water, I passed somebody whose legs were sticking up out of the water. And that ended up being one of it was their dad. That's all I saw was this pair of legs. And I thought, well, those look like adult legs. I hope he makes it. Yeah. That was my thought. And I just went running right by. And the mom, she was trying to do something. She got dragged off her feet. And so now we make it close enough that they can come and help. And mom grabs one of them, and then dad gets sucked in with another one of them. But that wasn't very harrowing, able to pull them up off the beach. I didn't know what to say after, so the family, they were, shocked. And they just said, they looked at each other, and the dad looks at mom and he goes, I lost my pants. And sure enough, he had no pants on. So he had his tighty whities, that's all that was left. And I just thought, man, we're so fortunate. Like, I wanted to high five everybody, but they were stunned. I was like, wow, we just pulled one off here. We just got away with one. And I guess all that feeling sorry for myself earlier was just me having a pity party, right? So, great things happen. Eventually, they did come around. They did say thank you. I gave them hugs. I was so happy to see these girls, And the dad says, hey, we're from Toronto. We never saw anything like that, And I didn't want him to feel bad. I go, well, yeah, it's crazy here. That could have happened to anybody, I could tell you that I'm a testament to God's good plan and to people that could look past my throwing tantrums, my whining, my own BS, so to speak, right? And go, hey, if you're going to be anything, I got to be willing to challenge you. So if the people you have influence on, if they're going to be anything, right, then let them understand a few things. It's going to be hard. It's supposed to be hard, right? It's not show friends, right? It's show biz. So don't take it personal, and teach these people how to have a bad day. sometimes we're just going to have a bad day. So give them an umbrella, because without the rain, right, there's no rainbows. So anyways, hey, I want to thank you all. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak. We're very blessed. Great opportunity with my older son here. And I really do appreciate you all, and I appreciate what you have going on in Madison. I hope this takes hold and spreads to more communities. Thank you for your time.